Hello, my name is John Ballman, and this is my final project for ETEL 2500 entitled Dictating Design Fascist Italy's Architectural Legacy. I would first like to start off by sharing a quote from Benito Mussolini himself. Architecture is the greatest of all the arts, for it is the epitome of all the others. Architecture is an art form that many of us take for granted. Just as a picture or a story can be used to invoke emotions, architecture and urban design subtly and unconsciously affect the way we live our lives and perceive our environments. Many of us know Benito Mussolini as the infamous Italian fascist prime minister from 1922 to 1943, who expertly used propaganda to influence the desperate Italian population. While history has primarily recognized Mussolini's use of film and printed propaganda as tools of manipulation, I feel as if much of his architectural propaganda has gone largely unnoticed. Mussolini's architectural portfolio is actually quite impressive. Along with creating monuments across the Italian peninsula, one of Mussolini's grander plans involved the construction of an entirely new neighborhood in Rome. These urban renewal projects across Italy saw the construction of many iconic Italian monuments, buildings, and train stations, many of which are still in use today. Here I have included a few of my favorites. Stadio de Marmi at the Foro Italico is a stadium completely surrounded by Carrara marble statues like the one pictured here. The Bolzano Victory Monument was built to honor the sacrifices of soldiers who died in World War I. This monument stands as a testament of Mussolini's control over architecture throughout Italy. Third is the Santa Maria Novella station in Florence, which blends the ideas of rationalism and fascism with modern architectural practices. Throughout many different pieces of fascist propaganda, there is a common theme of Italian rebirth and a return to a more Romanesque society. While Italy desperately needed change and reform in order to ensure economic growth, the Fascist Party used the ancient Roman Empire as a symbol of Italian superiority. While many of these ideals were not necessarily reflected within the governmental system of Fascist Italy, many connections can be made between ancient classical architecture and the new age of rationalism. These rationalist architects sought to derive design inspiration from ancient Rome by mimicking many design elements, including simplicity, symmetry, and restraint. Many facades of fascist-era buildings also feature the same columns and arches that can be found throughout many classical-era buildings in Rome. Giselle Gazert, author of Ideological Applications, Roman Architecture and Fascist Romantia, states that, quote, "The location for this new expression was more overtly described in the city of Rome at least. Fascist buildings should arise alongside the ancient monuments once they had been liberated from more recent accretions. This juxtaposition of Roman and modern would provide reciprocal validation for the monuments and create a sort of grandeur typical of the ancient city and necessary for the fascist one. These fascist buildings were intended to blend seamlessly with ancient architecture, hopefully as a way to create more similarities between the two societies." Another quote that I think perfectly describes this idea comes from the mind of Paolo Nicoloso in his book Mussolini Architect: Propaganda and Urban Landscape in Fascist Italy. Nicoloso explains that, quote, "This type of architecture would exemplify traditional classical architecture, whose original splendor dated back to ancient Rome. It would reawaken a sense of belonging, of national pride. It would nurture in the collective imagination the idea of a country that was once again powerful and invested with a civilizing mission." Now, I would like to show a few examples of these design ideas in practice. First, we are starting at the Palazzo della Civiltà Italiana, or Palace of Italian Civilization, located in Rome, Italy. This building serves as an architectural symbol of the EUR district of Rome, the neighborhood created to host the canceled 1942 Roman Universal Exposition. While the exposition never took place due to the outbreak of the Second World War, Palazzo della Civiltà Italiana still stands today as a testament of Italian fascism. Next, I would like to highlight the Palazzo del Littorio, or Palazzo della Farnesina, also located in Rome, Italy. This colossal building serves as the headquarters of the Fascist National Party and features many design elements typical of rationalist architecture, such as symmetry and scale as a way to impose control over anyone standing below it. This new headquarters was built to depict the Fascist Party as eternal, and by creating a connection to ancient Rome, established a sense of permanence within citizens of the city. The final example of fascist architecture I would like to talk about today is the Palazzo dei Congressi, also located in the EUR district of Rome. Designed in the late 1930s, this building was built to serve as a convention center for the Roman Universal Exposition. As we know, this exposition was canceled, and similarly to both previous buildings, the Palazzo dei Congressi was not completed until after the end of World War II. This building is probably the easiest to connect with the ideas of classicism in ancient Roman architecture, as the facade looks very similar to many iconic Roman landmarks. Though the first thought may have been to tear these buildings down after the fall of fascism in Italy, the new Italian government decided to repurpose many of these buildings. While this is significantly cheaper than demolition, this also preserves the rich architectural legacy of a time period many Italians hope to forget. Currently, the Palace of Italian Civilization serves as the international headquarters of Italian fashion house Fendi. The Palazzo del Littorio serves as the headquarters of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, and unsurprisingly, the Palazzo dei Congressi still serves as a convention center. This concludes my final project. I would like to thank you all for listening, and I hope you all have gained knowledge about this part of history that is far too often overlooked.